Welcome to the Sharkpreneur Podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.
Welcome to the Sharkpreneur Podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to have back an amazing repeat guest, Todd Brown, considered by many the #1 authority on engineering profitable customer acquisition campaigns. He is the expert other experts go to when they need help with their own businesses. He's got clients in over 33 countries, operating in over 63 different mass and niche markets. It's been said that Todd has helped his students engineer more 6- and 7-figure funnels than any other expert online today, and his list of coaching and consulting clients and mastermind read like a who's who of A-list entrepreneurs. Todd, thank you so much for coming back.
Yeah, super excited to be here. Always the most uncomfortable part of the podcast is when the bio. It's to me it's cringe worthy. That's how it feels to me. But I'm super excited to be back, man. And so yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. I understand there are times when people read Mindbound. I'm like, really? I did all that? The good news is yours is all true.
That's right.
So let's dive in. Given some of the stuff that you've been releasing in the marketplace lately, what do you think the biggest mistake business owners we all make is when we're trying to engineer new customers at a profit?
Wow. Well, my goodness. I think in that question, in the way that you phrase the question, I would say that probably, and this is something that I've talked about for many years, the big mistake is trying to acquire customers at a profit, is not recognizing that there's a difference between what in direct response we talk about as front-end marketing and back-end marketing. And right, the most successful direct response driven entrepreneurs, the most successful direct response marketers recognize that the front end, acquiring customers, is all about acquiring maximum customers. In other words, it's not where we're looking for profit generation or profit maximization in the business. We're looking to acquire the most amount of customers that we possibly can. And it's the back end that is ultimately the real business that we're in. The back end is all the marketing that we do to produce the second, third, fourth, fifth transaction, and so on. The back end is the real business, and the back end is really where the profit in a direct response driven business comes from. The front end is all about maximum customer acquisition. And there are really, I like to talk about it. There are 3 levels or 3 different approaches that entrepreneurs can take when it comes to thinking about profit and maximum customers on the front end. There is the way the typical mom and pop entrepreneur think about customer acquisition, which is they don't really think about customer acquisition. They just think about generating a sale. And for them, whether it's the first sale with a customer or the second, third, or fourth sale with a customer, they think of it in the same way. They think of it transactionally. They're looking for a certain margin, a certain profit per transaction. Again, whether that's the first purchase or the 5th purchase. And so they're looking for a profit in that transaction. Then there is the second level of what I call acquisition aggression, which is break even, right? And this is where you for whatever it is that we spend on marketing, on media buying, on running ads, we're merely looking to recoup in the form of sales revenue from new customers. If we spend $1,000 and we sell a $100 item, let's just say, on average, then we're looking for 10 customers back, right? Meaning we spend $1,000 on ads, on media, we generate $1,000 in sales back. We broke even. We didn't generate any profit, but in the process, we acquired 10 new customers. And knowing that, of course, right, we've got a back end where we're going to market and sell other products and services to them. That's where the profit is going to come from. And then, of course, we've got the third level, which is where the most sophisticated, really, I would say, biggest direct response driven companies and entrepreneurs operate, which is they go negative on the front. They spend more to acquire a new customer than what that customer is worth the day that they're acquired. In other words, they spend more to acquire the customer than what the customer spends with them on that first transaction. And the reason why they do that is because they recognize that this is really a game of investing. We're investing in the acquisition of assets. Those assets are customers. Those assets, those customers have a value today, and then they have a future value. And so because of the future value, I'm willing to spend more today to get that customer than what that customer spends with me, knowing that I'm going to make it up on the back end. And while it can seem like there's not a huge difference between those three in terms of the impact on the business, there's a massive impact, because when you're willing to operate at break even, and certainly when you're willing to go negative and you've got the data and the cash flow to support that, it makes marketing to acquire new customers, new buyers, much, much easier, because you don't need the same level of sales conversion rate. You don't need the same average order value. So you don't need the same, upsells, downsells, all of that, right? Because you're willing to go negative. So what you can get away with just makes the game so much easier when you're willing to go break even, and that much easier when you're willing to go negative. And so that's a long-winded way of answering the question.
I love it. I think you are 100% right. And I love the direction that you took it in. You are also very well known for talking about the big idea in marketing. How do you create a truly unique and compelling big idea in today's oversaturated, crowded marketplace, where there are so many competing offers in almost every niche, and they keep getting more and more ridiculous in terms of what the promises are? How do you create a big idea that really cuts through that clutter?
Yeah, great question, man. I love this topic. So let's set the frame a little bit. So in this context, when we're talking about a big idea, we're talking about a big marketing idea. And so I want to differentiate this for everybody listening from the typical, big idea in terms of a product, like a breakthrough product. Like we're going to come up with the next Uber for rideshare. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a big marketing idea, meaning we're talking about coming up with an idea for your marketing campaign, an idea for your marketing message, a theme, a hook, an angle that gets attention and creates engagement, because it is wildly different than what the marketplace is hearing from others. And so how do you come up with that? Well, number one, and I think a little bit the answer is really kind of somewhat inherent. It's kind of built into your question. So number one, you have to be a student of your marketplace. You have to be an avid student of your marketplace. Not only, of course, an avid student of prospects and their desires and their wants and their feelings and their emotions and what they consider to be a great solution and what they consider to be a bad solution and all of that. But you also have to be a student of what competitors are saying to the marketplace. What ideas are they presenting? What themes, what angles, what hooks are already being presented to the marketplace? What angles, stories, perspectives, ideas have the marketplace, or has the marketplace already heard before? It's important to know, because, right, if we don't know that, then we have no way of knowing whether we've got a new, unique, fresh, compelling, interesting idea if we don't know what they've already heard. So first and foremost, you've got to start with being an avid student of your marketplace. And really, I would say that should never end. While entrepreneurs and specifically marketers and copywriters may do more intensive research when it's time to create a particular campaign, they should always be keeping their finger on the pulse of the market, because markets change and evolve and shift over time. So ultimately, what we are looking for is We are looking to be aware of what is already being said to the market and what is the market already heard. And now we are looking for an idea that is new, is unique, is fresh. And we're looking for an idea that is both intellectually interesting and emotionally compelling. So intellectually interesting, meaning that it almost feels newsworthy to the audience. It feels like they stumbled on something that, like, hey, why haven't I heard about this before? It's of interest to them because it's related to their problem or their ambition, their greed, if you will. And so there's an intellectually interesting component because the idea brings value for the audience, and it also feels newsworthy. But it's also emotionally compelling because, like all marketing ideas, it needs to have a payoff. It needs to bring a result with it. It needs to change something in the prospect's life. Either the idea has to convey that if you engage with this, you can learn how to alleviate a problem or experience more of something good that you want in your life. And that developing those ideas, what I would say is, right, so number one is we're looking for something that's new, unique, different. Really, all those are all saying the same thing compared to what it is that the market has already heard and is hearing now. We're looking for an idea that is intellectually interesting and emotionally compelling, something that feels newsworthy and also is exciting because it gives them the payoff that they ultimately want. And those kind of ideas come about through research. What I mean by that is that you don't sit down with a pad and a pen or a blank Google Doc and come up with those ideas. Those ideas are discovered. They're unearthed. Usually it's the seeds of those ideas that are kind of unearthed. And then what we do is often good ideas are all about just making connections between two seemingly disconnected things. And so we're doing research, we're unearthing little nuggets, we're coming across a stat that we had never heard before, or we're coming across a fact that, wow, that's like really unique. And we're going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And then we're doing a little bit of, well, what is this like? How can I kind of connect this with something else? And that's ultimately what we're doing to try to come up with an idea that is going to be wildly attractive and engaging to the audience.
That is awesome. Now, you have been talking about this for many, many years and have multiple courses on it, which I've taken. Thank you very much. With the, AI becoming so much more prominent, how do you see that impacting customer acquisition strategies over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think that like what AI is going to do, which it's really already doing, is it's streamlining and shortcutting the process. Because I think that it's a great, AI is obviously, things like ChatGPT and whatnot are great tools, for streamlining and shortcutting the process. In other words, today, like you could almost do an overwhelming amount of, if not all of your research through AI today. It'll pull from things like Reddit and whatnot for you. And so it becomes a partner that'll do kind of the heavy lifting for you in all these areas, in coming up with and developing big ideas, in showing you connections and coming up with unique mechanisms. The key is just understanding the outcome that you want. It really now is about understanding what is a big idea. What would a big idea, like what are the elements of a big idea? Like, for example, intellectually interesting, emotionally compelling. What is intellectually interesting to your audience? What is emotionally compelling to your audience? Right. And giving that kind of instruction to AI. So I feel like AI is going to do more and more of the heavy lifting for the entrepreneurs and marketers that understand what they want to get out of the AI tools. And so, like, again, for example, the idea of a unique mechanism. I mean, the more that you understand about things like a unique mechanism in marketing, a big idea in marketing, a rock solid, airtight, emotional and logical argument, all of these things that are the core of like my approach and what I teach, the more that you understand, the better the prompting, for lack of a better word, that you can give to the AI, the better the result that you're going to get out of it, and then the more of a valuable tool it will be for you in the process.
Absolutely. On a different note, you've coached some of the most successful and biggest names in the industry. What's the number one mindset shift you think that separates wildly successful entrepreneurs from those who struggle?
Wow, that's a great question. I'll give you I'll give you one. I don't know if this is the number one thing, but they're, they are willing to take swings at the bat and have short memories. What I mean by that is that it's, they know that every quote unquote failure, every campaign that they create and launch that doesn't work brings them one step closer to finding the one that does. And so they're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to have something bomb. They recognize that the value is in the action. Nothing happens if you're not taking action. If you're sitting back and you're just pondering and thinking and contemplating and planning, nothing is going to change. It only changes through action. And the best of the best are willing to take action. They don't place a whole lot of weight on, they treat things like this is just an experiment, right? Most experiments aren't going to go well. That's okay. It gets me one step closer. And so they're prolific in swings at the bat.
Awesome. On a separate note, you recently made a change in your own life and took a foray into the world of bodybuilding. What inspired that?
Well, so in all fairness, so growing up, so first of all, when I was a kid, I was extremely small. So first of all, I'm short to begin with, and so I'm only 5'5". And so when I was younger, I was also extremely like thin. When I'll never forget when I wrestled in my as a freshman in high school. And because I was too small for like every other sport, and I was like, this has weight classes, and so I didn't even have to. Everybody else was stripping down into their underwear when they were weighing in. I was in my jacket and my pants, right, like with like coins in my pocket, and it didn't matter. I was well under the lowest weight, and so I started weight training back then just to add weight. My body really took to it back then, and then I ended up stopping wrestling and just getting into bodybuilding. And so when I was in my from about 17 to 24-ish, I believe it was, I competed in 8, 9 bodybuilding contests back then. And then I got married, had 2 kids, got into business. My priorities shifted. And then for whatever reason, a few years ago, really right before the lockdown, I got back into it for whatever reason, just working out just for health and whatnot, and fell in love once again with, bodybuilding. I think, what I love about bodybuilding is, number one, I like the fact that it's an individual sport, and so it's all on me. My change, whether I do well, whether I don't, and just in terms of my own transformation, is all on me. It's not based on a teammate or somebody else. It's all, I'm carrying 100% of the responsibility. I also like I love the commitment, the dedication, and the discipline required, because it's a sport that is really, when you're competing, is 24/7. And so it's food, sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, recovery. It's all of those things, which is around the clock. So it's not like you just go into the gym, train for an hour or 90 minutes, and you're out. It's round the clock. And I actually like that because, for me, the process of getting in shape was really what I loved more than the actual competing itself. The competing was one day, you're on stage for maybe, 7 minutes total, that you take, 4 to 5 months of a grind to prepare for. And then, it's minutes on stage. To me, it was testing myself in that grind. And so very recently, just two years ago ish, I decided I was going to get back on stage after 28 years or something like that, being on stage. And I went into it saying, let me see if I still have that animal in me to be able to do the prep for, 20 weeks. Like, let me see if I can still unleash that animal, because I really felt like, if you could do that, like I believe anybody that competes in bodybuilding and shows up in shape, there's very little that they can't do, in my opinion, if they decide to do it. It requires that much willpower, discipline, focus, and so on. And so I was like, let me see if I still have it. And, and I do and did. And yeah. And so, and I've also, as a total aside, I took so many of the lessons that I learned in bodybuilding and applied them to business. And a big part of why I was, why I believe that I was successful early on was because of those lessons. Like, let me give you one. Bodybuilding is one of those things where it requires delayed gratification. It's not, if somebody starts exercising today, you don't go to the gym today and tomorrow you look better and you feel better. If anything, you feel worse, right? When you feel worse, and so you've got to be patient, diligent, and consistent, and you've got to pay your dues. Meaning there are things that you're going to have to do, and you're going to have to do it well and do it over and over and over without seeing the results or the payoff immediately. In many cases, taking a very long time to see the payoff, but you still have to be focused on it. And there's no magic. There's no magic bullet. There's no secret formula. What there is you know what to do. Like, you gotta work hard, right? Like, in bodybuilding, you got to train hard. You got to follow a program, like blah, blah, but you just have to do that every day, day after day, week after week, month after month, practicing delayed gratification, knowing that the payoff will come. And I was able to take that one lesson, that one thing, and bring it into business with the things that are not always pretty, that are not the sexy things in business, and just know, like, if I commit to this, and I'm focused on this, and I do this consistently, over time, this will pay massive dividends. And that's exactly what happened.
That is a great lesson, and congratulations on your success there. We greatly appreciate your time. We know it's incredibly valuable. For our folks watching and listening, where is the best place for them to go to learn more about all things Todd Brown?
They could go to toddbrown.me. So TODDBROWN.me, and they'll be able to find stuff.
All right. Stuff is good. Todd, thank you again so much for coming back.
My pleasure, man. Love it. Love it.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.